This module on English grammar explains with illustrated examples and drills English verbs, verbal phrases, verbal patterns, the tense and aspects, the formation and usage, negative and interrogative constructions, passive constructions, modal verbs, direct and indirect, conditional clause structure, subject-verb concord, and non-verbal function of the verbal forms. Where shall we begin? We shall begin from the beginning. How do you learn a language? A language that is not your mother tongue, that is not your vernacular, that is a foreign language. You start with the alphabets. Then, what do? We learn certain basic, frequently used words in that language. The spelling, their meaning, and their pronunciation. This is one level of language learning. And then, what do? We put these words together to form sentences. Can we put words together as we like and form sentences? You can't do it. If you do it, you will be creating only non-sentences. Every language has certain rules governing the formation of sentences. You can't put words together as you like. Let me give you a set of jumbled words. Week, my, come, next, will, father. How to form a sentence from these words? You find out that some words tend to go together with some other words. This is what we say collocation. For example, here, week will go only with next. You have to say next week. My will go with father. My father. Come will go with will. Will come. So, from these 6 words, we have formed 3 groups. Next week, my father, and will come. Then, how do you make it into a sentence? You know that in English, there must be a subject. The subject in this group is my father. Verb must come next. Will come. Then you have the adverb, next week. My father will come next week. Or you can say, next week my father will come. If you arrange these words in any other manner, it will not be a meaningful grammatical sentence. You have to remember that in English, word arrangement is very important. Let us take 3 words. Rama, Ravana, killed. Rama killed Ravana. Ravana killed Rama. One sentence can be Rama killed Ravana. Another sentence can be Ravana killed Rama. In both these 2 sentences, you have the same words but the meaning is different. How does it happen? It is because of the ordering of the words. When you say Rama killed Ravana, Rama becomes the doer, the killer, and the killed is Ravana. In the second sentence, when you say Ravana killed Rama, Ravana becomes the subject, the killer, and Rama becomes the killed. The change comes about because the ordering is different. You can understand that grammar is very essential to the learning of a language. Just as you can't build a house without a foundation. You can't improve your communication skill in a language without a familiarity with its grammatical groups. Remember, a grammar of a language is unique. The grammar of a language is different from the grammar of another language. No two languages will have the same grammar. Now, you can understand that a language is structured at different levels. At the highest level, you have sentence. At the lowest level, you have word. And in between, you have clause and a phrase. A sentence is made up of clauses. A clause is made up of phrases, and the phrase is made up of words. A sentence can be simple, compound, and complex. It can be a declarative sentence. Example, Tom will come tomorrow. It can be an interrogative sentence. Example, will Tom come tomorrow? It can be an imperative sentence, orders or directives. Example, come with me now. And it can be an exclamatory sentence. Example, what a wonderful place. A sentence is made up of clauses. A clause can be a main clause and a subordinate clause. A subordinate clause can be nominal. It can be adverbial. It can be adjectival. The clause is made up of phrases. A phrase can be a nominal phrase. It can be a verbal phrase or an adverbial phrase. A phrase is in turn made of words. Words are classified into word classes, what we popularly call parts of speech. Traditionally, we talk about 8 parts of speech. They are noun, verb, adjective, adverb, pronoun, preposition, conjunctions, and interjection. To these, we add 2 more. One is auxiliary verbs and the other articles. Noun and verb are the 2 important components of a sentence. You know that a sentence must have a subject and a predicate. The important part of predicate is the verb. You can't have a predicate without the verb. For example, when I say the baby cried, the baby is the subject and cried is the predicate. And the predicate consists of verb only, that is, cried. You can add more. You can say, the baby cried loudly. The baby cried in the kitchen. The baby cried for its mother. In all these sentences, the baby is the subject and the remaining part is predicate. That is, cried loudly, cried in the kitchen, cried for its mother. In all these sentences, cried is the only verb. But there can be a predicate without verb. Verb is the vital component of a sentence. What is a verb? We will explain this with examples. Rama sang beautifully. What is the verb in this sentence? Sang. What did the verb do? It tells us what the subject Rama did. Rama sang. Here, the verb denotes a function, a job done by the subject. This is called dynamic verb. Look at the sentence. Rama is a singer. What is the verb here? The verb is. What does it do? It doesn't tell you anything about the action done by Rama. It tells us who Rama is, the state of Rama. Here, the verb performs a function of denoting the state of a person. This is called static verb. Rama is a singer. Look at this example. Rama has a piano at home. Here, the verb is has. What does the verb has do here? It doesn't denote an action. It doesn't denote a state of being. It tells us a possession. What is possessed by Rama? Rama possesses a piano. So here, you find the verb is functioning the role of indicating a possession. This is possessive verb. You can understand that a verb can do three functions. It can denote an action. It can indicate a state of being. It can indicate a possession. These are the three different functions of a verb. When we talk about verb, we talk about tenses and aspects. What do you mean by tense? Without going into too many technicalities, let us broadly say that tense is related to time. If the reference is to the present time, then the verb is said to be in the present tense. If the action refers to a past, then it is in the past tense. If it refers to an action which is to take place in the future, then we say it is in the future tense. So, these are the three tenses: present, past, and future. Within each tense, you have variants. What kind of action is performed in that time? This is what we call aspect. There are 4 aspects. First one is simple. Second one, continuous or progressive. Third is perfective. And fourth is progressive perfective, or what we call perfect continuous. There are 4 aspects for each tense: simple, continuous, perfect, perfect continuous. We have 12 constructions, 4 aspects for each tense. Before studying tenses and aspects in detail, I will give you some more examples on tense usage. This will enable you to understand the fundamentals of verbs. Now, I will give you few more examples. I go to college every day. She plays tennis every evening. I met you last week. Look at these 3 sentences. We have underlined the verbs in these sentences. You have only one verb for each sentence. This is what we call a lexical or main verb. These are sentences consisting of only one verb. Look at the sentence. I am singing. Here you have two verbs, am and singing. Singing is considered as the main verb or lexical verb, and am is a helping verb or auxiliary verb. I have finished the work. Here the verbs are have and finished. Finished is the main verb or lexical verb. Have is the helping or auxiliary verb. I have been waiting for you. Here you have been, waiting as verbs. Waiting is the main verb. Have and been are auxiliary verbs or helping verbs. She may have been waiting for you. Here you have one main verb, waiting. The helping verbs are may, have, been. So a verb can have one word or up to 4 words. One will be a main verb and the other will be a helping verb. It is by a combination of main verbs and helping verbs that we are able to generate complicated verbal structures. A verb is classified into 2 types: main verb or lexical verb and auxiliary verb or helping verb. Now, what are the main verbs? This is what we call a verbal paradigm or a verbal structure. Every verb has a base verb, what we call a root verb. Example: sing, run, eat, meet, and visit. Nothing is added to these verbs. We call them root verb or base verb. Shall we call them VO verbs? VO verb, verb without any addition. The second lexical verb will be you add yes to the main verb. Eats, eat plus s. Sings, sing plus yes. Meets, meet plus yes. Runs, run plus s. Visits, visit plus yes. Since we add s to these root verbs, we call them VS verbs. VO and VS verbs are in the present tense. We use VO and VS forms in the present tense. Look at these verbs: visit, jump, climb. The above verbs are in VO form or root verbs or base verbs. We will add ed to these verbs. Visit plus ed, jump plus ed, climb plus ed. Now the verbs become visited, jumped, climbed. This is what we call past tense. Normally, we add ed to form the past tense. Visited, visit plus ed. Jumped, jump plus ed. Climbed, climb plus ed. So, we can call this past tense verb as VED. So we have seen VO root verb, VS root verb added with S, VED root verb added with ED. VO love, VS loves, VED loved. VO climb, VS climbs, VED climbed. These three verbs VO, VS, VED are tensed verbs. They indicate the tense. They are called finite verbs. They need not have any helping verb. They are independent. VO, VS, VED are independent lexical or main verbs. Now, we come to the non-independent lexical items. Take these verbs: singing, going, reading. We have added ing to the root verb or VO verb. Sing plus ing, go plus ing, read plus ing. Singing, running, reading. Ing form, we call it as present participle. Ing form is not independent. It needs a helping verb or auxiliary to form a verbal structure. We use ing or VING form in the formation of continuous aspects. VEN forms. Now we will study about VEN form. Observe the base verbs and how it changes here. Go, gone. Meet, met. Jump, jumped. Gone, met, jumped. This is what we call as past participle. Past participle is again not independent. It has to have a helping verb. Along with a helping verb, it forms a perfective aspect. VING, present participle used in the formation of continuous aspect. VEN, past participle used in the constructions of perfective aspect. In addition, you have infinitive. To come, to go, to sleep. This is known as infinitive, where to is added to the main verb. What is infinitive verb? When a verb is preceded by to, we call it infinitive verb. There can be an infinitive without to also. This is the bare form of the verb. Sleep, need, etc. We call it as bare infinitive. So, this is what we mean by verbal paradigm. VO, VS, VED. VO, VS, present tense. VED, past tense. Finite verbs, independent lexical items. VING, present participle. VEN, past participle. Present participle VING and past participle VEN, they need helping verbs to form verbal constructions. Then we have infinite to and infinite without to. Let us take the verb jump. Jump, jumps, jumped, jumping, jumped, to jump, jump. Jump, VO form. Jumps, VS form. Jumped, VED form. Jumping, VING form. Jumped, VEN form. To jump, to infinitive form. Jump, bare infinitive form. Naturally, we have one question. Past tense or VED form is jumped. Past participle VEN form is also jumped. How do I know whether the verbal item is VED past tense or VEN past participle? The answer is very simple. If it is VED or past tense, it won't have any helping verb. I jumped the queue. If it is VEN, then it will have a helping verb. I have jumped the queue. She passed the exam. The verb is in VED form. She has passed the exam. VEN form or the verb is in past participle form. I studied about the animals. VED form. I have studied about the animals. VEN form. So, VEN will have or has as the helping verb. Then, what is the distinction between bare infinitive and VO form? If it is VO form, it will not have any helping verb. If it is bare infinitive, it will be preceded by modal auxiliaries. By modal auxiliaries, we mean may, will, shall, and so on. I come to college every day. VO form. I will come to college tomorrow. Bare infinitive, where the verb come is preceded by will. This is how the lexical verbal items are used. Then, what about auxiliaries? Auxiliaries. They are broadly classified as primary auxiliaries and secondary auxiliaries. Secondary auxiliaries are generally known as modal verbs, and we will study about this later. What are the primary auxiliaries? Primary auxiliaries, we classify them under three headings: be form, have form, do form. By be form, we mean am, is, are, was, were, being, been, to be, and be. We will apply VO terminology here. When it is am or VO root verb or verb without addition. Is, VS form. Was, were, VED form or past tense. Being, VING present participle. Been, VEN past participle. To be, to infinitive. Be, bare infinitive. Using the primary helping verbs, we can construct progressive or continuous sentences. I'm coming. You are coming. He is coming. Remember, you, whether it is singular or plural, it has to be followed only by or, even if you refer to one individual. It is incorrect to say you is. It should be you are. I was coming. They were coming. Being. Remember, being, been, to be or secondary auxiliaries, and they need another helping verb like am, is, or, has, have, had. It is being done. It has been done. It will be done. To sum up, is, am, or, was, were, being, been, to be, or be form of the auxiliaries. Now we study about have form. VO, root verb, have. VS, root verb plus S, has. VED, past tense, had. VING, present participle, having. VEN, past participle, had. To infinitive, to have. Bare infinitive, have. What about do? VO, root verb, do. VS, root verb plus S, does. VED, past tense, did. VING, present participle, doing. VEN, past participle, done. To infinitive, to do. Bare infinitive, do. So, it is only by combining these lexical verbs and auxiliaries that we are going to create verbal structures. So, let us try to recapitulate what we have done so far. Verb is one of the important parts of speech. Verb is essential part of a predicate. Verb can denote an action, it can state a being, and it can talk about possession. A verb shows tense and aspect. The tense can be past, present, future. The aspect can be simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. And a verbal phrase can have one lexical or main verb and one or more helping verbs. The main lexical items are VO form or base form. Then you can add S to this VS form. You can add ED to it, VED. You can add ING to it, VING. You can add EN to it, VEN. It can be preceded by to infinitive. It need not have to bare infinitive. Example: VO, root verb, love. VS, root verb plus S, loves. VED, past tense, loved. VING, present participle, loving. VEN, past participle, loved. To infinitive, to love. Bare infinitive, love. Auxiliaries: primary and secondary. Primary auxiliaries are be form, have form, and do form. Secondary are known as modals. They are will, shall, would, should, may, might, can, could, need, dare, used. All these are called modals or secondary auxiliaries. Now we go into the tenses and the aspects. What we intend to do is take up tense one after another. Go into every aspect. We will first find out how that aspect is to be formed and then find out in what situations we have to use that particular aspect. Let us begin with the present tense. Let us assume that an action that takes place in the present time is called present tense. The first aspect we are going to take is simple present. Simple present. Tense is present, aspect is simple. You have to be a bit careful when it comes to simple aspect. In the simple aspect, we have to use the base form of the verb, that is VO form. Sing, bring, read, raid, display, and bow. Then you have to use VS form also, where you're going to add S to the root verb. Sings, brings, reads, raids, displays, bows. Where are we going to use base form? And where are we going to use a VS form? You know the three persons: first person, second person, third person. First person singular, I. Plural, we. Second person singular, you. Plural, you. Third person singular, he, she, it. Plural, they. If it is first person singular and plural, second person singular and plural, and third person plural, you have to use the base form of the verb. I come. I, first person singular. We come. We, first person plural. You come. You, second person singular and plural. They come. They, third person plural. In other words, we can say when we use I, we, you, they, we use the VO form. If the subject is third person singular, he, she, it, then you have to add s to the verb, vs form. He comes or Tom comes. She comes or Anne comes. It comes or the cat comes. I write. We write. You write. They write. He writes. She writes. It writes. This is very basic grammar point. You can't afford to make mistakes in this area. We can also use be form, have form as a main verb for simple present tense. You can say, he is here or Tom is here. He is a teacher or Anne is here. He is a student or Jim is a student. We are using auxiliary is as a main verb. I am a student. We are students. Or Jim and I are students. You are a teacher. Or Kate and Sarah are teachers. He is a singer. Or Tom is a singer. She is a writer. Or Amanda is a writer. It is a dog. They are cats. Similarly, we can say, I have a pen. She has a car. Here, you are using an auxiliary verb as a main verb. When the noun is in the plural form, you have to use the base form of the verb, that is VO form. If the noun is singular, you have to use VS form. That is, you have to add S to the base verb. A girl loves fancy dress. Or Amy loves fancy dress. It is a singular subject. We are using VS form. Girls love fancy dress. It is a plural subject and we are using VO form. A dog barks. Dogs bark. A student is always mischievous. Students are mischievous. She hates sweets. We hate sweets. Remember, plural noun should take base form or VO form. Singular noun should take VS form. This is a very vital area and you should not make a mistake here. So, where do you use the simple tense aspect? Normally, when we use a simple present, we are not going to talk about an action that is in progress. We talk about an action that is habitual, that is regular, that we repeat often. I go to school by bus. That means that you're going to school regularly by bus. It is a habitual action. I get up at 8 o'clock. She goes to bed at 10 p.m. I watch TV in the evening. She watches TV in the morning. She comes to college by bus. I come to college by train. We go for walk in the morning. She goes for walk in the morning. I am a good boy. She is a good girl. We are good students. They are bad students. So, when we talk about a habitual regular action, you have to use simple present. The college starts at 8:30 a.m. The first bell goes at 8:35 a.m. We wind up classes at 1:30 p.m. Regular, habitual, repeated actions, you have to use only simple present. Similarly, when you talk about truths, accepted things, you have to use only simple present form. Because truths will not have a past, present, or future. Truths are always truths. So you have to use only simple present when you talk about truths. The sun is a star. The earth is a planet. Wood floats in water. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. So these are truths. When you refer to truth, use simple present. In case of commentaries, we can use simple present to say, "Here comes Obama." Need not to say, "Here Obama is coming." To express that immediacy, you can say, "Here comes Sachin." Here comes Obama. That is an acceptable form to give that emphasis to it. We can also use simple present to indicate a future action, and we will discuss it later. So, what are all the important things that you have to remember about a simple present tense? In the simple present tense, you are going to use VO and VS forms. VO in the case of first person singular and plural, second person singular and plural, and third person plural. VS forms you have to use when the subject is third person singular. That is, he, she, it. Singular nouns, it must have VS forms. Plural nouns, it must have VO forms. Have, be, do auxiliaries can be used as main verbs. He is a cinema star. I have a car. I do my job well. So, even though they are auxiliaries, they can be used as main verbs in the simple present tense. Where do we use simple present? When we refer to habitual regular actions. When we refer to universal truths. When we talk about event happening now, but to give it an immediacy, we can use a simple present. You can also use it to refer to future action, which we will discuss later.